Alright everyone, it's Stealth Swimmer of the IFBB Bros, aka the IFBB section of the bodybuilding.com forum. Just a short little video about the 2013 Olympia. Pretty cool, got to go this year with my family, and I got to go to the expo, which was really awesome. It's a really good deal for the expo. Like a whole bunch of supplements had discount, tons of free samples. Anyways, got to see the very first Miss Physique Olympia, which was awesome. Linn Bailey ended up winning, so pretty cool. She also happens to be the very first IFBB physique, women's physique competitor. She was the very first person to get a pro card, so that's pretty cool, being the first person to get the pro card and the very first Miss Physique Olympia. So that was pretty cool, getting to see the first one ever. I caught like the very tail end of the Mr. Physique or whatever, but it was already like finishing up when I got there for that event. Back to the women's physique. Linn Bailey basically nailed her conditioning. Really lean without being too ripped or veiny or anything. Her like ability to make herself seem like bigger. She looks way bigger on stage somehow than like she even does like up close. Like I guess part of like what Lee Haney would call projection, like making yourself seem bigger than you even are. But like with her, it's like crazy. Like if you see her up close in person, like yeah, she's really muscular, but it's like mainly she just has really round muscles, and like the shape, like it just makes her pop, like stand out, because yeah, she looked way bigger on stage than when you actually like get up close. Like obviously she seems bigger up close, but you think she's gonna be like bigger, like even bigger than she really is. Tycie Coppett came in second. She was really great. I don't think I even heard of her like before this show. I think she only did one pro show, not really too sure, leading up to the Olympia, but man, her glute ham tie-ins were crazy. Like you could notice them even from way back where I was standing. Toni West, probably my favorite going into the show. I think her proportions are really great. She came from a natural bodybuilding organization where she did female bodybuilding, and now she got her pro card in IFBB women's physique, and she placed in fourth. The third person I think was Jillian Reville. Not totally sure, can't quite remember, to be honest. I can look it up here real quick. It'll probably take a little too long. Anyways, point being, it was a great show. Really deep. I felt like all the competitors brought it for the women's physique. They all looked really great, and some really great physiques ended up not being in top 6 or whatever, or top 10 even, probably. I mean, like I said, all the women look really good. Then the 212 Olympia was pretty awesome, very competitive, very deep. Flex Lewis ended up winning. David Henry placed second. David Henry was maybe slightly more ripped, but his legs didn't match his upper body in terms of the size, whereas Flex Lewis was like proportional everywhere. Nothing was missing. Great calves and forearms that Flex Lewis had, so he really is not missing a single muscle group, and he was pretty darn conditioned himself, and his back came up. I was surprised. I actually felt like he was even winning the back double biceps versus David Henry, and you could tell though that Flex was probably really dry, or like pretty dehydrated, because he kept like shaking out his arms and stuff and his legs like in between poses, and I was like, oh, it looks like he's possibly getting cramps and stuff. So he was probably a little dehydrated. I think if I remember correctly, he weighed in like right on the dot 212, so that would explain why he's going into the Open this coming year in 2014. or well, not this coming year. It's already 2014 now. It's the making time of this video, but yeah, I mean, I think he's going to do the Arnold Classic 212, and then that'll probably be his last show, I think. Anyways, yeah, they look great. I thought Troy Alves looked great. I could have maybe placed him a little bit higher. I know I'm going like out of order because I'm just speaking as these things come to my mind. Kevin English should not have placed as high as he did. You know, I don't think that's a very controversial statement. You know, I think probably most people feel that way. A lot of people in the audience felt that way. And I was standing, well, I wasn't in the actual like seated area because I was standing outside. You had to have a VIP pass to get the seated area for like women's physique, 212, Olympia, Mr. Physique Olympia, and those events. And interesting story, actually. George Farah was there, and he's the nutritionist coach for a lot of the competitors, for girls who did figure, all sorts of divisions, and you know, they wouldn't let him in to sit down. They turned him back, and he was like upset. He's like, what? And they showed him like, no, you have to have your pass. Yeah, so he had to go and get a VIP pass there, and then, you know, go sit down. I mean, to me that's a little extreme. I don't know. I think that's extreme because he's coached so many of the competitors, not because he's done so in the past, but because he was actually a coach for many of the competitors here at this event. Anyways, but obviously, hey, it's a business, so they're probably gonna do that. Maybe the IFBB could, you know, cover fees like that or something like that for nutrition. For, I don't know. Nah, that would get too crazy. There'd probably be like a whole bunch of people, you know, wanting to cash in on something like that, like becoming coaches just so they could get free Olympia tickets. But anyways, that's just interesting. What you call it? Yeah, I don't think Kevin English should have been that high. Jose Raymond was a little bit distended, but other than that, you know, he looked pretty good. I would have had even him above Kevin English. Sami Al-Haddad definitely had him above Kevin English. Man, that guy's proportions and symmetry and balance was like spot on. Maybe could use a little bit thicker lats, maybe, but you know, very well put together. Yeah, it was a great division. The 212 Olympia was really awesome. All right, on to the what? Oh, Mr. Physique Olympia. Forgot to mention that. Mark Anthony won it. I thought for sure that Sadiq would win it because he just has such a tiny waist, you know, it's just crazy. But I guess maybe he was a little slightly too big for what the judges were looking for. Mark Anthony definitely has the physique look, but I don't know. For my taste, obviously I'm not a judge, I'm just a fan, but I definitely thought that Sadiq was gonna win. Anyways, I forget the second place competitor's name, but they also looked really, really good. But they were a little shorter, stockier, so I had like really huge shoulders, so I was like, oh, that's probably a little too muscular for what the judge was looking for. Anyways, figure. Yes, the returning champ, what's it called? Man, for some reason the name escapes me. This is horrible. Nicole Wilkins. There we go. I knew this makes this worse. Is like, okay, here's a little story. I was at the Orleans Arena because me and my dad and a friend, we had gone with family to go on this trip to Vegas, right, to go to the Mr. Olympia contest. Well, anyways, the Saturday morning after, or Sunday morning, I forget. Anyways, the morning after the competition of the Mr. Olympia, they have an athlete seminar, and it was canceled this year. But anyways, we're on the way out, and then my dad was like, "Hey, you want to take a picture of this competitor?" Because I saw that they were a competitor, but I couldn't tell who it was. And I was like, "No, we got to get going." And you know, I was getting pretty, just antsy to get out already, because I was just like disappointed that the seminar was canceled and stuff. But anyways, and I was like, I don't recognize this competitor. I don't know who they are. Anyways, later, after watching videos on my phone, turns out that was Nicole Wilkins. And like, even though this was like we were already like leaving town or whatever by the time I, had found this out or whatever, I was like still feeling really bad. I was like, oh, that's so horrible. Like she probably feels like I dissed her or whatever. I was like, even though I'm like some nobody, some casual fan or whatever, as far as she knows. And that's the thing. Like I haven't been following figure very long. I think the first time that I really paid attention, like, well, was one show way back. I forgot what year it was, but I was like, okay, obviously I have no clue what the judges are looking for, because like the girl who I had winning a show was like, fourth or lower or something like that, and I was like, wow, that's like way off. And the girl who's winning, I thought like, they looked okay, but so I had no clue what the judges were looking for. I think maybe I can start seeing a little bit more now that like, okay, some other shows that I kind of look at here and there when I just open up a magazine or go see it online. Anyways, I definitely thought Nicole Wilkins should have won this Olympia. Point being, anyways, I didn't recognize her because the first time that I had really gotten a good look at her was when she was in the Arnold Classic webcast, and she was in the off season, looked really different. Immediately when she walked on stage at the expo over there for the Miss Figure Olympia, you could tell that she brought it. Her structure, proportions, everything was awesome. She was a little big, like muscular. I felt like she was like on the verge of a physique competitor, in my opinion. But her proportions were really awesome, and I felt all the top three girls. Who else was it? I think Heather Dees. Not quite sure. Don't quote me on that. And Candice Keene looked really awesome too. Yeah. Or was it Aaron Stern that placed second? I think it was Aaron Stern. Okay, again, don't quote me on that. I'm sorry, I don't follow figure that often. So yeah, but I know Candice Keene was up there. She looked really great. Probably needs a little bit more shoulder in the medial head or lateral head. I don't know what to call it, grabber Nazi, but for bodybuilding, there's trolls out there. There's no such thing as the medial head. It's the lateral head. Okay, whatever. But you know what we mean when we say that. Anyways, like I said, Nicole Wilkins was really great. It was a competitive show. They seemed to have those top three girls up there for quite a while. And in the bikini division, there was a bit of a change up to not toss up, but a big change in this year, because the previous winner, I think her name is Natalia Mello or something. All I know is her last name is Mello. Maybe it's Patricia Mello. No, I don't know. Anyways, her last name's Mello. Again, I don't follow the bikini that close either, but I felt like the previous year's winner looked really great. That she was a great representative for that division, but I guess the judges thought she was too lean, because sometimes she's like, gets a little veiny and stuff, like, or is a little more, not a little more, she's quite a bit more muscular than some of the other girls. But I felt like her proportions are just so great, and like she has round muscle. She doesn't look like, for her, like being slightly like quote too lean like that, for her I think it looks okay, but I guess that's not what the judges were looking for. They switched it up, and it was a different winner. Again, don't quote me on this. This is horrible. Nicole Negrani, I think, is who won. I'm not totally sure. But yeah, India Paulino, who I thought was going to be like right up there, she placed lower as well. So did the previous year's winner. Amanda Latona got third, I think, and that was pretty cool. She looked really good too. Okay, but onto the, I guess, main attraction, the Mr. Olympia for 2013. And the reason I waited so long for this was I wanted to give time for all the trolls on the forum to filter out or whatever, They're always on there like the months leading up to Olympia and like a month after. But I waited even longer than that just because of, procrastination and other things. But part of it was intentional, but not such a long wait. Anyways, Phil Heath was the, returning champ, defending champ, wanted it for a third time. I felt deservedly so. It was a pretty dominant victory. 2012 was much closer, very, very close in 2012. I felt you could have tossed a coin in 2012 and had Kai Green won, Phil won. It wouldn't have made a difference to me. I thought they both looked great. I did think Phil looked a little bit better in 2012, but it was like if you were to make me choose, I'd go Phil. But it was just so close. Like, it was really more like, okay, a certain thing, like Phil had more detail in the rear lat spread than Kai, so that was like for me in 2012 the tiebreaker, so to speak, because I just like couldn't tell. I was like, oh man, they're so close. And I was like, man, that's a really large area of the body, and then to be having more detail, more like visible erectors and stuff like that, I was like, yeah, I gotta side with Phil. But anyways, this year Kai basically blew it. Of course, a lot of Kai Green fans were saying like he should have won, whatever, he was robbed. He was dwarfing Phil and stuff. Okay, he's always been bigger than Phil, or not always, not literally always. If you go back to 2006 in the Colorado Pro Show, I think Phil might have been a little bit bigger than Kai Green, and Kai Green's just like exploded with mass over the years, and so is Phil, but just not as much as Kai. And what you call it? So Kai was huge this year, big as a house, but he was soft. Okay, the difference in conditioning was not slight, like some people in the forum were saying. It was noticeable. And Kai, in a few shots, Kai's gut was just like hanging out all over the place. So not good. Got to control that at all times. And what you call it? That put together with the conditioning, I felt like Phil was definitely the winner, and also because of his proportions too. Not, Phil's structure is not might not be as quite as nice as Kai, depending on how you look at it, right? His waist is slimmer, but so is his shoulders are narrower too, structurally. So Kai's got a better V taper and stuff, but when you place them side by side, you somehow still seem to notice Phil's smaller waist, even though Kai's taper is, a bit better, like it's a wider V, so to speak. And but Phil, in terms of muscle development, like just has things like crazy round delts, like someone said on the forum one time, looks like you just got like a string and tied it like really tight, between his arm and his shoulder. That separation's so deep and his shoulder's so round, and just pops out at you. He has that 3D effect, but it's not like, just one thing. It's everywhere. It's like the thickness and roundness to his muscle bellies. For me, it's really the shoulders. Like that just looks so crazy. And what you call it? Of course, he wins the most muscular too. His shoulders like, it's crazy, man. And that shot's his all day long. But Wolf was very surprising. Came in third. Possibly could have been second. I thought he was battling it out for second with Kai more than Kai was battling it out for first with Phil. Wolf showed up at the prejudging crisp, probably the best condition we've ever seen him, without being flat. Full, huge, great stuff. Sean Roden, people were expecting things because some of the hype that was generated by Sean Roden, saying he was going to be so much bigger or whatever. To me, he didn't really look a whole lot bigger than previous year. He probably was a little bit bigger, but this is nothing that really stood out. What's good is that he kept his proportions basically the same, because he really doesn't need to change much in his body. Maybe thicker hamstrings a little bit, definitely thicker back. That's the main thing. Got to thicken up those lats. Dexter placed behind him, but Dexter's placing in itself was not bad considering the steep competition at this show. This was one of the best lineups I think ever. Very, very competitive. And Dexter brought it. He was not off. He looked great, but that was the highest he could go with this lineup, I feel. And Sean Roden is kind of almost like a bigger version of Dexter. proportions not exactly the same, but you know what I mean. Like he has a pleasing structure, you know, pretty good conditioning, full muscle bellies, that kind of thing. You know, his V taper is a little bit better than Dexter's because he's not structurally quite as narrow as Dexter is. But what you call it, looked great. Dexter looked awesome. Did what he had to do. Jay Cutler, you know, originally felt like he got the place he deserved, but you know, Rami probably could have placed ahead of him. Just after looking back at some of the shots again, you know, he was very dominant in some of the things, like the most muscular shot. Rami dominated that shot. Jay looked good, but just not the Jay of old. The lats were really downsized. That was the main thing. Some people commented on the legs. The legs were smaller, but people talk about the leg imbalance. I felt like it wasn't that much worse than it had been in previous years. It's been there for a while already. So if they haven't penalized, if the judges haven't penalized him for that, you know, yet, then they're not going to do it now. Or at least that's my my way of looking at it. But in this lineup, then again, you know, where everyone else has great symmetry and balance, yes, and that's really what I think hurt Jay. Whereas in the past he could rely on his overwhelming size, he didn't have that overwhelming size now, so those imbalances became more important. And his conditioning was good. You know, you know, he did have some water. He had lower back wrinkles stuff, but you know, overall his conditioning was pretty good. He was really sharp, and I was impressed with Jay. And he just, like, even though he was smaller, like, makes himself look like even bigger than what you'd think or whatever. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. Because if you saw him close this year, I thought like some of the photos from earlier this year looked kind of smallish. And then here I thought he was like looked pretty darn big, but just not quite as monstrous as he was before. Rami was definitely probably the biggest guy on stage. Him and Kai, probably the two biggest competitors out there. Rami looked really good. Again, the only thing this guy needs to work on is conditioning. If he nails it, I think he's, you know, definitely a contender to win the Mr. Olympia. What you call it? Lionel Bayeki, I think, made the top 10 there. It was a great lineup this year. It was a great lineup. Expected more from Cedric McMillan. You know, of course, the only thing, again, another person where the only thing he needs to do is nail his conditioning. Maybe thicken up the hamstrings a little bit, the medial delt, you know, get the shoulders just a little bit bigger so they can match his huge arms. But there's not really a whole lot out of balance with him. You know, he's a very balanced competitor, very proportionate. Just really needs to focus on that conditioning. You know, his structure is basically probably perfect or the closest to it in the whole sport. So, yeah, just a little, I guess, history, so to speak, on the forum. You know, after the Olympia, lots of Kai Green fans very upset, saying Kai got robbed, etc. You know, the usual. After every year, there's probably some people who feel like their guy was robbed and stuff. Like I said, I felt that Phil was the dominant winner. Kai was bigger than him, but he was soft. You know, and that judges have been telling, I don't know if they've been telling him directly, but they've been saying over and over, like different radio shows, because I like listening to Pro Bodybuilding Weekly, and sometimes I'll listen to Muscular Development Radio or RX Muscle Radio, and judges keep saying, and so do the people on the radio, the radio show hosts, they keep saying the only thing Kai needs to do is just come in a little tighter. Like, that's it, just a little tighter, a little sharper. Last year he was really sharp at finals, but he flattened out a little bit. I think people are overblowing the flatness. I think even with flatness, Kai looked awesome at the finals in 2012. And what was great was last year, his physique looked more streamlined because he was smaller. He was a little smaller, but he had that tight waist that we rarely, really saw from him in a while at least. And then this year he had the gut. So, man, he did the opposite of what he was supposed to do. Maybe he, felt like he had to bring a really big package because Big Rami was coming, and the hype for that was Rami's going to be 285 shredded or whatever. Rami was he was Rami, so he was really big, not nearly as sharp as he was supposed to be. Probably could have placed above Jay Cutler, but whatever. Still, pretty great Olympia debut, and again, just needed to be sharper. Same thing with Kai, just needed to be sharper. Again, that's my take. I turned my monitor off during this video because some of the forum members had asked me to take away this glare. Anyways, that's basically it. Wrap up, I guess, summary, highlights in terms of what sticks out to me. It was awesome to go this year. The very first booth that I went to the expo, I met someone who posted on the forum, and he was gracious enough to take a picture with me of me and Dexter Jackson. So that was pretty cool. Man, I just patted Dexter on the shoulder or whatever right for posing for the picture, and his shoulder was so crazy round. It's like he had a coconut in there or something, man. It's like, and the separation between the delt and arms, like it was like a crease. You could, put a finger in there, like, whatever. You could probably lose change or whatever. I don't know how to say it, but it was crazy. Anyways, it was really awesome. Great expo, lots of people around there. Dana, Linn Bailey, and Rob Bailey were really cool people. I was waiting for a while in the line. It was super long, probably one of the longest lines. Definitely the longest line that I was in, because I was trying to get to as many people as possible, like different competitors, seeing if I could take pictures and stuff like that. Hopefully if I go again next year, hopefully I will be able to, but then I'll have some pictures and stuff so that if I see those people again, they can autograph it or whatever. Got to meet my favorite female bodybuilder, Denise Messino, or at least, one of my favorites. Diana Cadeau is another favorite. But of course, these both retired by now. Just, I don't follow female bodybuilding as close as the men's, but it's definitely, still inspiring. It's still art. It's still nice to admire, like Corey Everson and Linda Murray and stuff like that. I forgot to talk about the Miss Olympia. Iris Kyle won for 9th time, so that was pretty cool. She broke the record of any competitor. But in my opinion, I felt Alina Popa an argument could be made that she was leading in the prejudging, because Iris was sharper in certain areas than Alina, and Alina was sharper than Iris in certain areas, like her quads and hip flexors on Alina. In the prejudging, at least, you could see that they were a little sharper. In the finals, I felt like Alina faded and she would look softer and she didn't have that pop to her muscle as much. And Iris, I felt, got a little better. So, can I say I was rooting for Alina Popa, but I can definitely see why the judges went with Iris because of how the show unfolded like that. I don't remember too many of the other competitors. Just going what sticks out of my head. Anne Freitas was really great. She's Brazilian, has a Brazilian booty, has crazy round glutes. The only reason she didn't place higher, I think, is because she's a little smaller than the other girls, but her muscle shape is really round, great conditioning, good size for her frame. Her proportions are really good. Maybe could get the lats up just a little bit, but I think she should have placed a couple spots higher, What did you call it? Now for the summary. Okay. Mark Anthony wins Mr. Physique Olympia. Dana Linn Bailey, the very first Miss Physique Olympia. Great competitor, great representative for the division, I think. It's a great division. That's probably one of my favorite divisions now. I love the way the look the judges are going for now. Surprised Karina Nascimento and Juliana Malacarne were placed lower. I think they got the places they should have gotten. It was like, I think 7th and 8th or something like that. But I just thought they were going to place higher simply because they had already won pro shows, like placed highly, like in multiple shows already. But Juliana, I think, definitely is too muscular for physique in terms of the Olympia level. She's really big, like probably the biggest girl on stage, so she should probably go to female bodybuilding. I think that's where female bodybuilding should go, with Juliana Malacarne and also Anne Freitas. That's a look that I think should be rewarded in female bodybuilding, but a little too muscular for women's physique. Anyways, Flex Lewis defends the title of 212 Mr. Olympia, or not defends the title, but wins it, I guess, because I think last year it was, or the year before it was 202. I think this past year was the first 212. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, but yeah, he won it. Great champion. Look very balanced, thick, round muscle, almost like the Phil Heath of his division, really. And then Phil Heath, of course, wins for the third time. He got the Heath Pete, the three-peat. So sparked a lot of debate on the forums, and I mentioned that because this, YouTube channel should be kind of like not just talking about different shows and stuff, but kind of going over the views at the time for whatever that are going on in the forum, and they can work to document our history. So there was very intense debate on the forum this year over Kai Green and Phil Heath and who should have won the show, and who looked better and stuff like that. But it was a great show. It was a great Olympia lineup. Very competitive. It was the first Olympia without Joe Weider, but I definitely feel like they did this year, did the competition justice, and Joe would have liked it, I think. Next year, I think, is the 50th anniversary, so they're probably going to do something special for that, so that's pretty cool. Which, in case people don't know by now, one of the cool things that happened this year, or that I think was cool, was that the competitors during the pose down got off the stage and went to the crowd after a little bit. So that was pretty cool. Like, seeing as it was the first Olympia without Joe, kind of try to do something big to, set this off with a bang or whatever, So, if you're up in the normal people's audience, you don't have the VIP pass like where I was then. You don't see the competitors when they're out in the crowd, but it's pretty cool for those people. And I think that, I don't know, I think that's good for a show. Some people don't like it. I think that's good because those people in that area did pay extra for those tickets. So, those are the really, really hardcore fans. So I definitely think that's cool. And to me, like, that seemed like a way to make this Olympia special. That's all that's sticking out to me in my head right now that I can think of about this year. It was a great show. Looking forward to the future Mr. Olympians.